So what we're going to do here is we're going to solve this quickly, and then we're going to write a game salad converter. Okay? So, to convert the decimal number 75 into the binary number equivalent, we're going to divide 75 over and over again by 2 and record the remainder. So 75 divided by 2 is what? 37. 37 times 2 is 74, with remainder 1. 37 divided by 2. 18. 18 times 2 is 36, with remainder 1. 18 divided by 2. 9. 9 times 2 is 18, with remainder 0. 9 divided by 2. 4. 4 times 2 is 8, with remainder 1. 4 divided by 2. 2. 2 times 2 is 4, with remainder 0. 2 divided by 2. 1. 1 times 2 is 2, with remainder 0. 1 divided by 2. 2 goes into 1 0 times. 0 times 2 is 0, with remainder 1. So our final answer, we read from the bottom up, 1 0 0 1 0 1 1. That's the answer. This is the 1's place, the 2's place, the 4's, the 8's, the 16's, the 32's, the 64's. So we have a 64 plus 1, 2, 4, 8 plus 8 plus 2 plus 1. Make sense? Go ahead.
If I put a 0 in front,
I mean, if you put a 0 here,
yeah.
Completely wrong. No, it's still accurate, because that would make this the 128th place, and 0 times 128 is 0, so it doesn't. I mean, you could put a bunch of zeros in the front. Oh, from networking, I got you. So what is it? Oh, you did it as 8 bytes? Got it. So you just do you just remember that 75 is that? And yeah, this is how I count. See, I went through about a 6-month period where I jammed all my knuckles. I only had a pinky and a fingers. I just did everything in base 2. Okay, so that would be the, let's call this the correct way of doing this. Another way you could have done it is you could have kind of ad hoc gone up to the biggest power of 2 that's not greater than 75, put a 1, then figure out what's the next power of 2 that you need and figure out where that place is. So you can kind of just figure out where your 1's are. Could have gone that route as well. All right, questions about this? Now, as a quick hint, what if I was trying to convert 75 from decimal to octal, to base 8? What would I do differently here? Divide by 8 and record the remainders. Everything else is completely the same. That make sense? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to create a scene in GameSalad. And we'll go ahead and hard code in a global variable, 75. I'm going to go ahead and start a new GameSalad project so we don't have my stupidity of starting the wrong scene multiple times. So we'll have a global variable. We'll start off setting that to 75. And when we hit play or whatever, it's going to go through the process of converting that 75 into its binary equivalent. So we're going to have to figure out several things. Probably number 1 is, how are we going to output this answer to the end user? Okay, so let's start off. Go into GameSalad here. I'm going to save this guy. And we'll create a new project. We'll call this guy, decimal to base converter. Hopefully that gives you a hint of where we're going with this. We're going to start off doing this decimal to binary, but then we're going to make it work for all bases. All right. And of course, we'll make this iPhone landscape because that's clearly where we're going to release this. Figure we charge $4.99 for it. We should release all of our things during the semester and by the end, see if we made anything. Well, we'll do one of those free weekend sales. 85% off, but triple the price. Have you ever seen that on the mobile apps? Something is 85% off. This weekend only. It's just that's the new price in perpetuity. Yeah. Okay. What's up?
The exact prices it's gonna be, but they just.
Yeah, people like deals. If it seems like it's on sale. I mean, you go shopping at Kohl's or something, and something says it's 50% off. Do you go and look at what it was the week before? Some people might, but most people oh, this is half price. So let's just say Kohl's is ethical, and they don't double the price of it first or raise the price 20% first. It's half off of twice retail. All right. So question number 1 that we need to decide. Well, here for starters, I'll go ahead and make our games attribute. And we're going to create a integer called decimal. So for starters, I'm going to have this guy hard-coded to, I know, I got it. I was testing you. Extra credit was, how do you pronounce that? In the old French.
I don't know French. That's my brother.
All right, so I don't think it's in French anyways, so it's fine. So we're going to hard code a global variable to be a 75 for our little example here. So what we need to decide is how. We'll figure out how to solve the problem in a minute. How are we going to actually output this to our end user? Keeping in mind that our program, our game, needs to allow us to change that decimal global variable to different values. I should be able to put in a 7 there, or a 342 there, that kind of stuff.
Does Game Salad have a raise?
Game Salad sort of, kind of does through tables, but we don't know about them. Using only what we know about right now. Go ahead.
Create a different one actor for each spot.
How many spots are we going to support? I'll just kind of keep giving you a bigger number until you don't have enough spots. Go ahead.
We could have it take every output value, multiply it by a number to fill that spot. So for 75 by 2, the remainder is 1, have multiply it by 1 per spot. And then add to that value every time with every number.
Okay, what do you mean add to that value?
So we have the 1 already, and then 37 by 2, we get the remainder of 1, multiply that by 10, and then go 10 plus 1, going into the 1 value. So as we go through, we end up actually pumping in the value 1,001,011.
I got you. So you're treating it as a decimal number. Okay, we certainly could do that. We'd eventually run out of size of integer. Actually, we'd run out of size of integer relatively quickly. So what he wants to do is he wants to just fudge the math so that when we scale it, we're always multiplying it by 10 to give us one more spot. And then making sure that spot is either the 0 or the 1 that we want it to be. But we would run out of places. We could just as easily set up, 12 buckets for your solution and still have a problem. So how can we do this and not be limited to the size of values that we can convert?
For every change in next value, like from 75 to 37, we can go for a space. Next space.
Well, that's right, but how do we get the space? Because we're trying to decide how to display this out to the user.
We can run 2 rules, like one for the value, one for the space, and then we can have a print on the space value, rather than having a print out on output of value.
Here, this is what I'm asking. If I show an actor here, And let's just say this is answer. Actually, let me make this smaller at the prototype level. So if that's one of our outputs, can I highlight these? Nah, killing me. Blah, 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 blah. The most I could fit across here is what? 4, 8, 12, 16 maybe?
Yeah.
Something in that ballpark. 16 is not enough to solve any problem. 16 is enough to solve a lot of problems, but not any problem. So we need to figure out how we're going to actually display our answer out to our end user.
Can you create attributes from inside of a loop?
Create an attribute?
Like, yeah, stuff inside of a method.
Well, have we done any dynamic creation of attributes yet? That's what you're asking, right? Dynamically create a variable. No, can't do it.
It's possible to create actors.
We could spawn actors. We certainly could do that. We haven't done it yet, but I would allow that. There's the behavior for spawning an actor. There exists a solution where we would not need to do that. And we have talked about it in here. Instead of hint, hint, I'll say dot, dot. That's the hint, hint. About 99.9% positive we talked about it.
Can you have like a,
Go ahead.
can you, like, how we did the dot dot to add the, like units, can you dot dot together different equations?
Well, so what's the dot, dot? The dot, dot is concatenation, right? So we can stick things together, glue things together. So if we started off with nothing and then tacked on a 1, now we have a 1. If we tack on a 2 or tack on a 0, we have a 1, 0. Tack on a 1, we have 1, 0, 1. Tack on a 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, so on and so forth. So we can have a single actor for our answer and have that guy start off as nothing. Then as we're solving our problem, tack on the next bit to that. Does that make sense?
Wouldn't the answer then be limited by the size of the actor?
It would be limited by the size of the actor, which we can make go across the entire screen, and the size of the font.
Right.
Okay, I mean, there's just, because of screen real estate, there's no way we're going to get away from that. But I think that's going to allow us to have a pretty big number in there. Probably bigger than we'd be able to conveniently check for accuracy on. So if we go down that route, good thing I didn't create a zillion of those. Let me just quickly look at my 568 width.
Perfect.
Is it? Now it's perfect. You don't have an eye for detail.
Or is it just a crappy display?
Wait, hold on. That is more perfect than that. You can see the little edge over here.
Yeah, but if you move it over, you... Oh, yeah, I see it now. I'll just shut up.
Musicians and their off notes is just artistic. All right. I'm going to go ahead and inside this actor, we're going to have it display some text. We're going to have it center that text. Let's make it 18. We'll make it black. Let's just see how that looks in terms of size. Pretty legit for now. Okay. So now we have a way to display an answer. Now we need to calculate the answer. So I currently have a global variable at my game called decimal. I want to put inside of answer the binary version of this decimal number. Well, for starters, we need to look at how to do modulus, right? We need to be able to do that remainder thing. Now, let's say there was not a modulus operator. Pretty sure there is. I'm almost positive there is. Let's just look real quick. Need to do this. So we're going to have this guy display our games, decimal mod. Oh, the format's a little different here. So there's our 1. 75 mod 2 is 37, remainder 1. Now, one issue we might run into, well, if we were doing it the other way, let's say I took my games decimal and I divided it by 2. In a language like Java, if you took an integer and you divided it by 2, as an example, so this is the modulus operator in Java, the percent symbol. So decimal mod 2 should give us a 1. Decimal divided by 2 in Java should give us a 37. Because it's an integer, it does not know how to hold decimal places. So it truncates. There's our 1, there's our 37. Okay? It truncates, it does not round. Let's see the behavior game style it gives us. So I'm taking my 75 and dividing it by 2. And it gives us a 37.5. Well, that's problematic. We selected integer value, right? Yeah, we're not able to do integer division on it. How can we make this act like it was integer division?
Isn't there a floor or some?
Yep. So there's some other ways we can do it. We could with just normal math, but we're going to go ahead and take the floor of games decimal divided by 2, and that'll give us the 37. Okay, floor says truncate, cut off any of the decimal place. Make sense? All right. So we've seen a couple of the integer division stuff. We can do the modulus. We can do integer division. But now I need to do this for the entire number. Going back to this, this slide. At what point did we stop doing conversion? Once our division gave us a 0. Make sense? So as we whittled down our value, 75 to 37 to 18 to 9 to 4 to 2 to 1, as soon as it got whittled down to a 0, we knew that we had our answer. So we knew we were done. So whatever we're going to do, whether it's a timer or having beach balls bounce off each other, whatever we're going to do to make this happen, we want to stop all of that as soon as our division hits 0. Because that means we have our answer. And we'd read it from the bottom up in this example. Okay, so the answer is 1001011, not 1101001. Okay, bottom up is how we read it. All right. So I need to keep dividing 75 over and over and over again until I finally whittle it down to a 0. So for starters, let's go ahead and just display inside of our answer box the value. We should see it go 75, 37, 18, 9, 4, 2, 1, and then 0. And as soon as we see the 0, it should all stop. Make sense? That's what we want to simulate right now. All right, how are we going to do that? You want a rule? All right, inside of our answer. So we'll create a rule. What's the rule going to say? As long as our decimal is greater than 0. As long as that's true, what are we going to do? Change an attribute. Our game's decimal to be whatever it currently is. Well, to be the floor of whatever it currently is. Divided by 2. Okay. And then we're going to display decimal up here.
Do we need to set a timer loop?
Timer loop. Okay, so we want this to happen so many times. So create a timer. We want this to happen, what, every 1 second? So every 1 second, we'll divide it. Okay? Is that what we want? All right. Now, what happens? Well, now we want to start concatenating remainders. Okay? So our decimal is going to keep counting down. It's going to go from 75 down to 37, so on and so forth. Each time through, we need to get the current remainder. So now, instead of displaying what decimal is, we want to display what the current remainder is. That makes sense? So we want it to display 1, then 1, then 0, then 1, then 0, then 0, then 1. That's what we want to see it display to the screen. Okay? So what would I change in here to have it do that? What's being displayed is what's changing. I'm not displaying the decimal. Instead, I'm displaying the remainder. How do we get the remainder? Mod the current value of decimal divided by 2. Make sense? And this timer is going to be changing decimal. So what we hope to see is a 1, then a 1, then a 0, then a 1, then a 0, then a 0, then a 1.
Is mod a function?
Mod is a function.
It's not listed in Windows 1.
Maybe modulo? They have to have an equivalent to it.
Not named the same thing anyways.
Try this on the Windows one. Try doing game.decimal %symbol too. Let's just see if it uses the same functionality as Java.
What was that?
It worked with Comma too when I did it earlier.
Huh?
It worked with Comma too earlier.
Well, no, he's on Windows.
Oh, I am too.
Okay. And you just typed in what?
Mod.
Oh, so the function wasn't available, like you couldn't select it, but it's still there?
Yeah.
So try just typing what I'm typing then and seeing if that works.
Percent symbol works.
Percent symbol did work? Out of curiosity, I wonder if it works in here. I'll try it here in a second after we see this do what we want it to do. Okay. It did give us a final 0 after this guy. Okay. Which is good because he already asked us whether or not having a leading 0 is okay. All right. So we now need to build this answer in the correct order. How do we do that? Remember, dot dot is for concatenation. If I want to build up something, I'm going to need a variable to store it in, right? And what do we want that variable to start off as? If I have no answer at this point, I'm going to build this up. I want it to start off as the empty string. Nothing, emptiness. Quick example of that. If I come back out here, and I create an attribute inside of my answer of type text. And I set this guy equal to the, well, he's going to be the answer. And right now he's nothing. And then inside here, let's just take our well, let's do this. We're going to display answers the answer. Inside here, we're going to change an attribute. We're going to say answer the answer is equal to answer the answer concatenated with, we'll put a 5. Okay? So now every second we see this run, it should build up. Make sense? So now we want it to build up with the right crap. All right? Well, with the right crap and in the right order. Make sense? There's 3 things we need to be careful of here. Well, I already said 2 of them. Fill it with the right crap, fill it up in the right order, but we also need to make sure that we do our math in the correct order. That is, capture the remainder before we divide our decimal. That make sense? Because if we take 75 and we divide it by 2, giving us the 37, then we go back and try to get our remainder, we've already destroyed the 75. So we have to capture the remainder first, then we need to divide our decimal. So we're going to change the answer to whatever, and we're going to do this in a kind of a step-by-step way. So we're going to change the answer to whatever the answer currently is, concatenated with, open parenthesis, can I do the open parenthesis here? I think so. All right, so concatenated with our game's current decimal, we want the mod. Oh, you said the percent sign did work?
Yeah.
Game's current decimal, mod 2. Then we'll change decimal here. Okay, so there's our correct answer, but reversed. So how do we fix that?
Can you switch the place of solve the answer in our mod?
So inside here, let's take the answer, we'll take our new math and concatenate onto the end of that, the answer. Make sense? Okay. Now, if I come in here at the game level, and I create a variable called toBase, and right now that variable is set at 2, number 2. I can then come into answer, and any place that I'm currently using
It's not there.
yeah, I get it. Any place that I'm currently using 2, I can instead say games toBase. Make sense? Okay. So now I should be able to run this. It should still work the way it worked before. But if I change our toBase to base 8, now it will convert it to the octal version of 75. So decimal 75 is equal to 113 in base 8. A cool way to test this is what should we get if we convert base 10 to base 10? Same number, right? We should get 75. So there's our 75. But we have an issue. That issue is, let me go in here. Need to think of it's 23. 2989. So 2989 in decimal to base 16 should give me BAD. But I got 11, 10, 13. Base 16 supports the digits 0 through 9, but then it supports A through F. So a 10 is equal to an A, an 11 is equal to a B, a 15 is equal to an F. Make sense? So what we're missing here is that mapping. So if I want to get these numbers to map, so this says BAD rather than 11, 10, 13, how might we solve that problem?
We put in rules to change the attributes from 10 to A, 11 to B, and so on.
Okay, so we could put in a bunch of rules that take the current number, the current modulus, and before we tack it on, it converts it to the correct letter or something like that. What would that rule look like?
Big rule.
Hmm?
We could use or have one statement.
Well, potentially it depends what we can do with the letters of the alphabet. So we could say if the remainder is 10, concatenate on an A. What if the remainder is 3? What are we concatenating on if the remainder is 3? Concatenating on a 3. So if the remainder is less than or equal to 9, concatenate on the remainder. Otherwise, if the remainder is 10, concatenate on an A. 11, concatenate on a B. 12, concatenate on a C. So on and so forth. Make sense? Okay. Can you think of a better way of doing this based on what we know right now? This becomes kind of a limitation for us right now, doesn't it? This lookup type stuff. All right. So for your homework, make this work for bases up to base 16. I could go up to base 36 and have you do the whole alphabet, but I think it will be a good enough grind to just write the the 7 if statements for the for A, B, C, D, E, F in the previous one. So for your homework, take this, bring yours up to speed with this, and make it work for bases up to base 16. Next time, we're going to look at a tool built into GameSalad that will allow us to do this mapping more conveniently. All right? So I'll go ahead and put this up on Angel now, and I'll see everybody on Wednesday.